Welcome back to our Business Central Sales Order Processing series. In this video, we're going to talk about sales order prepayments, or what are more commonly referred to as customer deposits on sales orders. Oftentimes in our supply chain, we'll have specific items or specific customers where we want to collect a deposit prior to either placing a purchase order for the item if we don't carry it in stock, or before we begin the shipping process for an item. So in this scenario, we have a specific item. It's a large-scale coffee roaster. It's our RP10101, and it's not something we typically carry in stock, but it is something that we sell to our customers. It has a very high inventory carrying cost, so we don't want to have a lot of them in stock, and we want to make sure that customers put a deposit down on it before we process any orders for it. To set this up, we can either do it from the customer level or we can do it from the item level. In this scenario, I am going to do it from the item level. So what I can do is I can set up prepayment percentages that are required for the customers so that orders cannot be released until that prepayment amount is collected. And when I click on prepayment percentages, I'm going to come to a grid. And what's nice is that I can set this on a customer by customer basis. You can see I already have one customer in here, which is customer C00010, Hartford Coffee Supplies. We require a 50% prepayment on this item when we sell it to them. I have a brand new customer that I've just added to the database here, Golden Hill Brewers. I also want to collect a 50% prepayment, and I'm going to put an effective date in here. It's always good to have dates. And I'm going to collect a 50% deposit from that customer as well. Now, if I navigate to that customer card and I look at Golden Hill Brewers, if I go to related sales, I can look at prepayment percentages that are specifically assigned to this customer. And you can see right away there's my item number RP10101 with a 50% prepayment percentage. So let's see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and go to my sales order list, and I'm going to enter a new order for this customer. I'll choose Golden Hill Brewers, and let's just say that they would like this by the end of January. Okay, and I can put in a PO number. I'll just put roaster in there for the PO, and I'll choose my item here and my quantity 1. And you can see my line item gets created with my price of $34.95. They get a small discount on this line. And I've added in my prepayment line amount here that auto calculates at 50% of my line amount price. So I have this new column here that shows me what that prepayment amount is going to be. And if you watched our last video on sales order entry, you can see we do not carry this in stock. So I get my banner along the top saying that we do not have any in stock. So this will obviously be a purchasing situation. I could choose to drop ship this from my vendor directly to my customer, but we will cover that in a later video. One thing that's nice about this functionality is whenever 50% doesn't round to a nice even number, the sales order entry clerk can choose to change the prepayment amount. And I'm just going to change this to $1,500, which is a nice round number, prior to generating what's called the prepayment invoice. So we have the prepayment amount down here. This status is still open. I cannot release this because there is a prepayment restriction for this customer whenever we're ordering that item. So instead, what we need to do from a sales order entry clerk is go ahead and post the prepayment invoice, which is calculated at that line item. So I can go ahead and click post prepayment invoice, and that will generate my invoice for me. And it posted the invoice. I can always go and look at the prepayment invoices here under related prepayment and show prepayment invoices that relate to this order. And you can see my invoice that was generated was 103006. And from an invoicing perspective, this invoice shows up just like all other invoices. So if they're going to be sent out at the end of day as part of a batch invoice routine, then it will show up as a candidate. I can also see here what the remaining amount on that prepayment invoice is. It's $1,500 and it's $1,500 remaining, meaning it still hasn't not been paid. If I go back to my sales order, you'll notice that the status of my sales order has changed from open to pending prepayment. This will also show in my sales order list. If I click back, notice that my status is in my list, so I can very easily see which orders are awaiting prepayment, so there's no confusion on why an order is sitting in open status and not released. Now, from a financial perspective, if I go and look at this customer account, I'll see now that that customer has a balance of $1,500. And if I drill into the customer ledger entries, you can see there is an invoice there. It's a prepayment on the order number 1013. I can even show that document if I'd like. Shows my customer prepayments line for $1,500. And if I print it out, you can see the reference to the original order on it. So here's my invoice that will go out to the customer. You can see there's my invoice number, and it's telling them that it's a prepayment on this specific order. And before I get away from that, looking at this invoice for those accountants, if I look at my fact box set for this invoice, I can see the general ledger entries here. We're debiting the accounts receivable account, and then we're crediting a liability for customer prepayments. Obviously, this is a liability as we hold their cash because we have not shipped the product to the customer. So to finish this process, I'm going to switch roles here. I'm going to put my accounting clerk hat on. And what I'm going to do is process a bank deposit with a payment from that customer. I'm going to go ahead into my bank deposits. I'll choose my account here. I'll just do the one payment here for $1,500. So I'm going to choose a payment from Golden Hill Brewers. And we'll just say it was a check payment for $1,500. And what I'll do is I'll apply that to my open invoice, which is invoice 3006. If you recall, that's the prepayment invoice. So I'm going to set my applies ID, click OK, and I will go ahead and post this deposit. So we've now processed the invoice, sent it to the client. The client has now paid for it. Now that the payment has been processed, I'm going to switch back to my sales order role, and I'll go ahead and open up my sales order list here. And you can see my Golden Hill Brewers sales order is now sitting in a released status. It has now changed from pending prepayment to released. And of course, if I go up and I look at my related prepayment invoices, I can now see that that invoice 3006 for $1,500 is now completely paid. So this is how you can process complex or simple prepayments on your sales orders inside Business Central. Thank you for watching.